for me, a lot of the bands that I listened to as a young kid were the guitar players in those bands, and the musical styles of those bands were big influence. So for me, that would be Rush. Was like a really, really big one. Yeah, awesome. And it just for an example, obviously Alex Lifeson is playing in a situation that's a trio, and he perfected the art of making the guitar sound huge. And I kind of picked up some things from him. I could show you really quickly too.
I'd get to the good stuff eventually.
Well, there you go. There's some effects. I have to thank my wife Raina for programming this TC Electronics Nova system. Thanks, Raina. Yeah, it wasn't making any sound before she came up here. Thank you. But one of the things that Alex showed me and that I incorporate in my band, and when I play solo, it even has more of a purpose. But in Dream Theater and my solo stuff with Liquid Tension Experiment, all that good stuff, is you do a couple things. First of all, you play big chords. That's one of the things that Alex does in Rush. It was a big influence, playing chords where you're using all 6 strings, even though if the chord is just a 2-note chord or a 3-note chord. If you're playing a C, you play all the way down, so the 5th is below, the 5th is above, and you don't play any thirds. That's another Alex Lifeson thing. He'll suspend the thirds, so you just have seconds, like that, or like that. That, and also playing open strings within a line. Right, so you see the B string is like an ostinato kind of pedal tone, and the lower notes are playing the melody. So when you do that type of thing, right, the big chords, the suspended seconds there, and the open strings, and then you add distortion because you're in a rock band. And
some of us do.
Some of us do. And you add chorusing, which is an Alex Lifeson thing, and you add delay, which is an Alex Lifeson thing. You add those 3 things: distortion, delay, chorusing. I'm using this TC Electronics thing, so I will give you an example. It would sound something like this. So any of you guys that know Rush, that's like total Alex type of thing. But if you know Dream Theater, I've used that millions and millions and millions of times. So anyway, that's a big early influence right there.
So we got Alex.
We got Alex.
Alex for $10.
We do. Also a big influence on me as far as technique was Al Di Meola and Return to Forever and all that. Yeah. To master that kind of Di Meola type of technique, one of the things that I learned really early on is to work on kind of smaller pieces, smaller pictures. So, if you want to be able to play like all the fast lines and things that are traveling up and down the guitar neck, you start with the small things, so you can kind of just view and hone in on your technique. So, even if you start just doing a single string type of thing, eventually you'll move it up. So, one of the things that I practice is taking groups of notes, 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s, 7s, things like that, and playing them just on one string, and then adding another string in eventually. So let me give you an example. Let's see if you were just doing groups of 3, and every single one of these I've ripped off from somebody. So you can probably recognize who I was playing it from. So if you were doing groups of 3, and you played like that's a good way of practicing 3. You're playing up 3 and then down 3. And the right hand is just doing down, up, down, up, down, up. I'll show it to you faster in a second. But that was some fours and some threes and some eights at the end there. So you see, if you practice the little ones, you can move on to the bigger situations. Steve Morse, he's my favorite of all time, no doubt about that.
Wonderful guy.
Yeah,
too.
wonderful guy. I mean, not only his guitar playing, it's his songwriting. You know, that's something that when I heard the music of the Dregs and the Dixie Dregs, if you guys haven't heard that stuff, it just really reached me. I related to it. I love his composition. And by the way, maybe a good segue, but while we're on that, all these guys that I mentioned, you know, Alex Lifeson and Rush, Al Di Meola and his music and Return to Forever and all that good stuff, Steve Morse and the Dixie Dregs and Steve Morse Band. You know, it's not just about playing guitar and playing licks and technique. It's about the thing that makes these people so great and memorable to us is the music. You know, it's like that with Jimi Hendrix. It's like that with Led Zeppelin and Jimmy Page. You know, it's the music of these bands that really sets them apart. And so, you know, people ask me all the time for advice as far as their career is concerned, guitar playing is concerned. It's not only, you know, the typical practice, but it's write music. You know, find your own voice, develop your musical style, and don't just sit there in your room playing to yourself. You want to get out. You want to play with other people. I've been fortunate enough to be in a band where there's a definite synergy there. So, you know, if you can find that and make that happen, either on your own or with other people, then that's where you're going to rise above and you're going to separate yourself. So composition, you know, all these guys, initially, it wasn't the guitar player, it was the music that hit me.